maintenance and to provide better incentives for water to be used efficiently, improving the leaks. They must allow them the leaks. They must allow them inside their households to ensure that they get the leaks and close the leaks. But they are going to do proper identification because close the leaks. But they are going to do proper identification because we do know that at that period, even people who know nothing about water, but that at that period, even people who know nothing about water might come and take their chances. Johannesburg Water presented the measure which in the matter up with
that. Thank you. At the back. Introduce yourself first. Thank you very much. The leadership will provide guidance on who takes which question.
No, ke a bona. Ke bona mo gaufi ke bone kgakala. Premier. Well, let me try and attempt to deal with a few issues on the repairs and the leaks. And we have put in place a program, of course, to continuously repair the leaks and reservoirs. One of the biggest problem we have is actually our reservoirs. 45 of them are not in good state. So it requires us to put additional money to try and deal with our reservoirs. Working around the clock, especially in the city, to ensure that in our own environment, we conserve water as much as possible. Most of our water, we basically use it for drinking and the loo. So to a large extent, we're doing something about it. But we also want to call on residents in the main. We are lucky that the rains have now come in, so there's no need to water your garden with clean water. So we're emphasizing to our residents not to use clean water for watering their gardens. So there should be no use of water pipes or hose pipes to water the gardens. We're also working hard on a pipe replacement program because we have acknowledged that our infrastructure is too old in Johannesburg. Johannesburg is a city established in 1886, and some of our pipes are 50 years and old. So we have to do something with the replacement, and I think we've been trying to do something in that relation. And then there's also questions around, I think it's Julia who asked about our percentage is basically sitting just around 40% and above in terms of our losses, both as a result of illegal connection, leaking pipes, and so on. So it might not necessarily be easy to quantify exactly, but it's around 40%, which is the biggest concern because it means what we buy from Rand Water, we lose 40% of those, and it means we can't recover the revenue from water losses. And hence we took a decision even our Lekgotla this Friday that we are going to prioritize water infrastructure and pump more resources in our adjustment budget in January to help us to. So also looking at other funding models and instruments that will assist us to fund the water infrastructure, because now it has become more urgent than ever. So allow us that space in 2025-2026 budget to see if we are indeed investing. The question around what happened last year and where are we now, I think it's Lunga. We took a decision in 2022 as we developed our water demand management strategy. And that strategy we're starting to see some of the results now. As you know that we have to go in and speak to communities, because unless you speak to communities, you are not going to win the battle. Two, we had to go into informal settlements, engage communities in informal settlements to also use the water that we provide, which in fact we are not even recovering any revenue from the water we are supplying in those informal settlements. And there's also a general behavior issue in deemed consumption areas. So we're to Orange Farm. So we want to deal with the issue because they're in deemed consumption areas, because they pay a flat rate of some sort into water, and as a result of that, they use water willingly, and they don't have conscious behavioral pattern to say, let's look after this scarce resource that is called water. So we have seen a bit of progress, one in terms of infrastructure. You are aware that we are doing reservoirs. We're also building one of the biggest reservoirs around Brixton, which will ease the pressure in that area. We are also refurbishing 11, which we think by June, July next year would have concluded on the 11 reservoirs, which will help us to manage the water supply much better. Minister, I think I've touched, but there's an important issue with National Treasury as it relates to the reforms. I think there was a question around revenue of entities. We are now in a program with National Treasury just around service entities reforms, which is water, electricity, and waste. And there are reforms that we're putting in place so that we ensure that the revenue collected can then be reinvested into those entities to address infrastructure and all other issues. But over and above the illegal connection that we have been dealing with since we implemented this program, I think last week we went very aggressive into those areas. But at times we receive resistance from communities and we don't have the necessary capacity. And that is why we're saying a joint program between JMPD and SAPS will help us a great deal to deal with informal or rather illegal connections and the bypassing of meters. We do have other customers who have the capacity to pay, but they've been bypassing meters throughout Johannesburg, including business entities, and we'll continue to call on them not to bypass meters. But into the future, Minister, I think that we require more innovation in terms of dealing with these issues. And that is why on Friday we said it is not our mandate to go inside the houses of people, but we have made that decision. We are going to go inside, deal with the leaks inside and the taps. We are going to go inside the churches as public institutions. We are also going into schools to ensure that we deal with the leaks. You may find that this 40%, part of it may be attributed to churches and all other public institutions, and hence we have made that decision. We've also made that decision, Minister, that we are going to work with business because we have to change in which the malls utilize water themselves. So we have to have a program with all the big malls that we have in Johannesburg to try and manage water usages even in our malls. We have also said internally, city parks will not continue to water their gardens and for water underneath, and they are concluding their research. We're also looking at entering into a contract with Gauteng so that we can then retrieve the water that they always have to drain out, so that we can use that clean water and feed it back into our system. So we are looking at those models. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Your Excellency, Comrade Minister, Babe Swamans Matol, Babe Swamans Matol, and to Comrade Premier, Comrade Lesufi, Comrade Mamabula, the MEC, Comrade Data, the Mayor, the MMCs and the Chair of the Board, the DG, the Group CEO, the City Manager. Minister says I should Ministry of Water and Sanitation, and Minister Majodina has confirmed that she will proceed with the state of water resources in our country through a proper assessment. How are we performing as a country? That's why the introduction of the drop reports, the green drop, the blue drop, and no drop report, it remains an important instrument to say how are we performing as a nation. But it does not only end there, it requires that Water Services Authority, they need to take a number of actions so that they can be able to change course around their own performance. Has reached about 90%. And cities like Johannesburg, access is above 90%. But then there's a question to say, is the water available all the time in terms of reliability? The reliability is a function whether the water flows into the system. In this case, it has dropped in South Africa to about 66 to 67%. In other words, there are people who go for days, for weeks, for months, they don't have water. But there is a tap. And that one is a function of non-revenue water around the availability of infrastructure. That we call it reliability. If, for an example, here in Johannesburg, Comrade Dada loses about 48.3%. When he loses 48.3% in terms of non-revenue water, Minister has said that his actual fiscal losses on the infrastructure will discharged back into our rivers. In the main, the reports in South Africa indicate that there's been a deterioration. There is a lot of pollution coming from industries, coming from wastewater treatment plants from the municipalities, but also from agriculture and the other users that are there. We are polluting more water. And the more we pollute water, what does it mean? It means the biodiversity, the hohakis are going to be affected. We'll have your algae, you'll have your icing, you have your lettuce that are there. And Minister assigned Deputy Minister Sitlulu, he has opened up here a polluter register. There's a task team that is there this morning. Actually very expensive to treat. What does it mean? The money is going to be passed over to the users. In other words, you will increase the issues of that. But I think the issue of pollution, the polluter pay principle is working. That municipality in Mpumalanga called Msugaliko, where I come from, we went to court. They were fined 300 million. Another municipality also in Mpumalanga, I don't know why they do them from home first, so that we can go to other provinces. They have also been fined. Tabachwe, you would count a number of them. And we're not going to negotiate with polluters. Polluters must stop. If they don't stop, they are going to pay. That's why it's going to come at a cost. The cost must not be borne by the most vulnerable. On climate change is a phenomenon that is here. It has two aspects in our case. Either it will be flooding, like is happening in the Eastern Seaboard. More rains will be found in KwaZulu-Natal, in the Eastern Cape and certain parts closer to the seashore. Then there's going to be flooding. And how we build, in terms of building the infrastructure from an engineering point of view, we need to be at a different level, build much better. At a particular, when we push it to aquifers underground so that we don't lose that particular water. Minister is also promoting rainwater harvesting. It's cool that each in every household must have a water tank. Not a water tank, I mean a static tank. Not the one you normally call it J something. It's a company, that one. I don't want to use it here. It's a static tank. Each and every household must actually do rainwater harvesting. That's the advent of having more rains. And that's the time we must catch water. The downside is drought. When there is drought, it has devastating impact. You saw it in Nelson Mandela Bay, close to 7 years in from. And it's not something new. It's happening internationally, happening in South Africa. Even in Maritzburg, it's happening. We do drink wastewater, but that is treated. The other water, where will it come from? The mix? Comrade Data is correct. Gauteng, because of mining, thousands and a million and billions of liters are underground. The issue of water reclamation from mine water is the best technology to use. Therefore, we will not be running out of water as a country, but probably do we have the technology? The answer is yes. Whether the technology is expensive or not, we should not have a problem. I thought this issue around climate change must be, and that's what Minister says. I don't want you to say you must pay because it's not sustainable. In as much as we want to actually have credit control, but how do we support them? Even here, Minister has made Rand Water is available to work with Johannesburg Water. They are working together to turn around the situation. Then there's a credit control issue around the issues of putting proper meters. The billing systems must be working, is part of the support. Then we say ring fence the money, and so that the monies are not there. In our own case here, this municipality has money they get from the USDG. In the USDG, which is close to 2 billion, we've asked the mayor, supported by the premier, that 33% of the USDG belongs to water and sanitation. There is money from the water sales. And in other cases, we give money through RBIC, we give money through WISIC, including the MIC, which is not in areas for metros. In MIC, 50% must be able to go to
my group chief executive, all protocol observed. There's two specific issues that affect the Rand Water which were posed. The one is we have raised issues last year. What have we done? Last year we indicated that some of the challenges that are there is the issue. We are going to be bringing in another 450 million liters by the end of this financial year. This is outside the number of pipelines, the maintenance, the major maintenance that we did between June and July earlier this year. So we are doing really something, and we meet on a daily basis at 8 o'clock. It used to be twice a day. We meet on a daily basis. Our chief operating officer chairs a meeting where he meets with municipalities. In particular, he meets with metros, where they look at challenges in the system and then decide how they deal with those challenges. And those meetings assist us a lot in terms of distribution of water. But I think whilst we appreciate that the challenges are within municipalities, but let me just give you numbers. Rand Water at maximum, we provide 5.2 billion liters a day in Gauteng and few municipalities. In that 5.2 billion liters a day, municipalities lose about 48%, which is approximately 50%. Therefore, they lose 2.5 billion liters a day. However, we are saying, whilst there are challenges in municipalities, the amount that is owed by municipalities in total to Rand Water, as we speak now, is 7.3 billion rand. That is owed by municipalities. We, however, interact with municipalities. Yesterday we had a meeting at 7. The minister is really working us very hard, the minister. I couldn't even go to church yesterday. And also the MEC is also overworking us, the MEC and the Premier. But I think it's because we regard ourselves and Gauteng are not owing us. And thanks to the Premier, the MEC and the respective executive mayors for their support, and the minister and the TM. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I will attempt to deal with few issues that are remaining. But I want to give this context first. We convened a local government summit in the last 2-3 weeks to adopt what we said it's a 9-point plan, so that each and every municipality across the province can agree to the basics that bind all of us. And one area that was an area of deep concern was the infrastructure, because our infrastructure is not only aging. I think we are the generation that is inheriting an infrastructure that is aging at a very faster pace. So we needed to ensure that the infrastructure is improved in a manner that it assists us to limit leakages and many other things. But we are quite convinced now that each and every municipality is reviewing their budget so that this part needs to pay for services. So this is a very important task that we are trying to really manage and assist municipalities so that we can protect those that can't afford to pay. So the message to the residents of Gauteng is simple. We have to reduce the consumption of water at a faster pace. If we can't do that, the system will not be in a position to carry us for a longer period. So it's in our best interest that the consumption of water is reduced. There is a red line that is right, because Johannesburg covers a larger portion of Gauteng. And that's the reason why we are seeing ourselves investing our resources, our energies, and our skills on Johannesburg. And fortunately, we've got an executive mayor that is willing, that is not defending, that is allowing us to assist to deal with this aspect. So I'm going to meet with the executive mayor of Tshwane, and then we meet with the executive mayor of Ekurhuleni to then develop plans that can be aligned to the plans that Rand Water has requested us to work on. MEC Mamabolo is chairing the weekly or daily processes, but we need an overarching strategy that will assist us to really drop the usage of water. There's someone that spoke about law enforcement or maintenance or ensuring that our law enforcement agencies, they don't just pass. We want to bring the leadership of NGOs and those that have interest in water to be our ambassadors in terms of communicating the importance of saving water and lowering the consumption of water. So if we can lower the consumption of water, we would have avoided the crisis that we are trying to paint, so that we don't find ourselves in a very bad situation. But I want to thank the minister, the deputy minister, for really, they are now permanent residents of Gauteng. And Minister, we appreciate your guidance, we appreciate your leadership with the deputy minister. We honestly want to assure you, we are on top of this situation. We will not allow this situation to get out of hand. We'll do everything within our powers to Gauteng is the economic hub of our country, and the use of water plays a critical role in the economy of our province. So that is why you see we are trying to protect this economy on the side of energy, on the side of water, so that we don't have a province that cannot deliver those two crucial products that are needed by our citizens. But where we are convinced that we can manage the situation. It's not easy, it's tough. We are learning new terms every day of abstraction. We are learning, so it's tough. But we are willing. We are willing to really manage this situation so that we can deal with it. But to our citizens, on a very, very serious note.
We are on a second month now that we have closed the tunnel, and our deadline is that we are going to stay within 6 months. After 6 months, that tunnel will be up and running. So water can take us up to 9 months. So we don't have water crisis. However, we can have water crisis if we don't attend to things that we're saying here as the panel. The second one, how do we rescue the water boards that are in the verge of collapse? We had 9 water boards initially. 2 water boards went bankrupt because they were not paid by our own municipal invoices. So we don't want to go to an extent of water shedding. We really don't want to go through that. Our people have gone through difficulties of load shedding, so we don't want to go through water shedding. That is why we're going to have frequent briefings on the state of water in the country. Tomorrow I'll be making ministerial statement in the National Assembly to assure citizens of this country, South Africa, that our water balance is fine. We are not running into crisis not to have water. On the Hammanskraal, there's been reports that we are extending dates. When construction was done on the 3 sides, it was delayed a little bit. Saturday the 16th, we'll be handing over phase 1 of Wamanskral, which is going to give people 12.5 megaliters. And that is what we have agreed upon. So it is up and it's going to happen this Saturday. The next phase will be in February, the third phase in April, the last phase in June. So we have not given up on that matter, but we had to follow all the processes to ensure that when we hand over that phase 1, water is clean, safe and drinkable. I thank you very much.
We have made a commitment that we'll go to second round. Can we check if there are further questions? How many? So we have 2. Kaukelo, who else? And you? Okay. You okay. Look, follow up. Okay, Kaukelo Maholera. You'll be second, my brother. You will be third, you'll be the last. Or you'll be the fourth last. Are we fine? Yeah. And I assume this will be the last round. Thank you very much, colleagues. Leadership, proceed.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Paolo Maola from UFM. You know, it's often said that people from other provinces, in particular the rural ones, keep coming to Gauteng in search for opportunities. The current upgrade of infrastructure that you are busy with, are they going to keep up with this influx of people? You've mentioned the squatter camps, obviously those are people who are here seeking opportunities. And then my second question regards to illegal dams. In other provinces, they often find that illegal dams, particularly by the agricultural sector, they steal water, it's unaccounted for. Is that a factor in our current situation? You know, even when there's no shortage of water premiums, residents generally across the country don't trust the water that is coming out of their taps. They will have bottled water like yours purified by commercial entities. Are we ever gonna reach a stage where you will have a jet there of tap water and then event this important or now are we just talking about supply with, to the extent that we have given up about ever getting the quality right, of the water that is coming out?
Okay, thanks, Kaukelo. Maura?
Yes, government is making any interventions when it comes to issues of water tank mafias who also tamper with infrastructure that they just to deliver water to communities, especially in urban areas. Water becomes an issue where the taps are dry, but families rely on water tank.
Thank you.
That does not have a risk mitigation like a spillway. Yabona amanzi mayegcwele kufanele aphume. Unlike le dam leka minister wayibona lapha engena spillway. Then the department we do have what we call it approved professional persons. There are very few of them. People that have a capability, they are part of an international organization around dam safety. And South Africa were proud because of the number of dams who are in that organization. In the meantime, in Limpopo, there's an accusation that another farmer is hawking water there. People in the Miklileta, we are creating more job opportunities here, but there's an income in terms of being dollar rated. and then your oranges and all these other things are thrown back because the water content that was there has certain elements that are actually not there. Even the food, especially the meat, we export a lot of meat. It has that particular impact. But I can assure you now that where there are water boards, everywhere in South Africa, where there are water boards, the water is safe to drink in the taps. Here in Gauteng, they are provided by Rand Water in the main. They are also provided by Mahalis on the other side of Tshwane. The quality is the best. You can drink it within the tap. But don't drink it any tap. There are taps that are actually having a red mark. New about what we have done in Vlakfontein. He has also told you about what we have done in Vereeniging around Pump Station. Minister says to Rand Water, I'm going to give you more water by 28, 29. If the water arrives from Lesotho, additional 500 million cubic meters, Rand Water must be ready to treat that water. That's why the 35, 38 billion is the support that is there. But government is supporting, it's not about Minister Majodina supporting them. Government is supporting Joburg. They are getting urban settlement development grant, but that 1 billion rand of comrade data is not sufficient. It needs 3 billion. Where will he get the 3 billion? Minister has said, I'm going to go to the market with you. There is a budget facility. That's why Sean works with National Treasurer. We work with DBSA. We are looking at the question of a special purpose vehicle where this entity that is capable, they have a very good CEO here, Johannesburg Water, one of the best. And if Baba Mnigeta ma tools of the Jojo tank is a simple matter. I said to you, Minister said,
that comes to Johannesburg, which of course it will put the strain of our infrastructure. So as we continue to do planning, we accommodate the fact that Johannesburg is constantly growing. So our engineers, our designers, as they do the reservoirs, they put that in mind that there's a growth, and some of the growth is not really determined by us or directed by us. So this huge urbanization that is happening, and we are alive to that fact, and hence we're trying to ensure, and at least we have now reached an agreement with State South Africa that Johannesburg is now sitting at 5.8 when we ourselves had projected the 6.1 million people. So at least there's something that we are seeing. We are receiving just around 1.9 billion in terms of our USDG. And I think part of what we're going to do is then do what the minister has instructed us to do, that we allocate at least 33% of that towards our water infrastructure. And in fact, water remains one of the key revenue generating for the city. So most of our revenue also get it from the water surpluses. So I think there's something we would have to do in addressing the issue that we have asked. We also try and ensure that we keep the 98% blue drop in terms of our water quality. So you can drink Joburg 500 meters from it. We are building a very huge reservoir called the Brixton, which will then supply the entire area. I think we're doing about 26 megaliters in the area, which we think it, in fact, the technical people are also saying it will give us about 48 hours. Is it 48 hours more in a sense when there are disruptions? We'll still have enough supply for just over 40.
What are we doing about the mafias that are doing water tankering? We are working with the Minister of Police, Minister Mchunu, because we view that as criminal, because it does not start on demanding a tender, but they start by vandalizing the water infrastructure, and that cause harm to ordinary citizens because they want to be contracted to give water. So every time people see that our water infrastructure is vandalized, they must report that. So we are taking this matter up, not us alone. The Department of Public Works is also affected by these mafias, construction